Don't you just love having NFL Sundays back? I sure do. It gives me something to do on a freaking Sunday. Thank God. Now, let's get to the results. Let's start with the debut of RG3, one of the rookie quarterbacks who made their first start today as a rookie, and he looked great. I mean, I know the Saints defense isn't exactly the best in the world, but man, the Redskins pulled RG3, he is the real freaking deal. I mean, I know it's just one game, but he feels like the real freaking deal. Went 19-26, 320 yards, 2 touchdowns, and beat the Saints 40-32. This is a very huge win. I thought the Saints would pull. I knew this would be a kind of close game for a while, and I thought the Saints would maybe pull away with it. But RG3 pulled through, and the Saints and the Redskins defense stepped up when it needed to the most. As Breeze only completed 24 of 52 for 300, he did throw for 339 yards, 3 touchdowns, but he threw 2 picks. RG3 threw no picks, and that was the difference between this game. And RG3, it matters who turns the ball over less and who makes the most plays at the end. RG3 did that. Breeze did not. As the Redskins shocked the Saints 40-32. What a great statement win for the Redskins. I mean, as a franchise that has struggled for the longest of times, they needed this, and now they got the Rams next week, a good opportunity to go 2-0 as the Saints take on the Panthers next week. Now let's move on to the other debut. Andrew Luck, not so good. The Bears defense got to him really good. Although the Colts looked good at first, as they got a pick six from Jay Cutler. Gerald Freeman made it 7-0, but then the Bears just took over. Cutler was too good. The Colts defense missing a lot. Andrew Luck's performance was a little forgettable. 23 of 45, 309 yards, 1 touchdown, 3 picks. And as they lose 41-21, as the Colts are taking on the Minnesota Vikings next week. A good chance for a win next week, but Andrew Luck's got to step up on his game if he wants to be one of the premier passers in the league. I know he's just a rookie, but he's still got a little long ways to go. The Bears got a Thursday night game against the Packers, and they got to be up on their game if they want to go 2-0 for next week. The Eagles barely surviving the Cleveland Browns, despite the fact that Brandon Weeden threw 4 picks, but at the same time, Michael Vick threw 4 picks as well, but at least he threw 2 touchdowns, including a clutch one at the end of Clay Harbor to give him a 17-16 lead. The thing about the Eagles, they're destined to win they're predicted to win the NFC East. They're predicted to be this great team, but at the same time, I just don't trust Michael Vick, And who could? He threw 4 picks against the Cleveland Browns. This is the Cleveland Browns. This isn't the Baltimore Ravens. This isn't the Steelers. This is the Brownies, all right? Cleveland, come on, man. I mean, Vic, this is nut up or shut up time. If Vic doesn't do it this year, he's got to go, and they got to give the keys to Nick Foles. That is my opinion, and I'm sticking to it. Vic, he did throw the clutch touchdown, but you still should never put yourself in the situation against a really bad team. If you had a lot of injuries, it's one thing, but the Eagles were pretty healthy. I mean, you had to get better if you're going to win the NFC East. That's all I'm going to say about that. But nevertheless, the Eagles did win 17-16. Disappointment loss for the Browns, but I guess their fans are used to it for the most part. I mean, despite all the turnovers, Weeden just did them in. I don't think he's ready to be the starter, and Trent Richardson struggled. Only 39 yards on 19 carries and 1 catch, 5 yards. But the Browns are taking on the Bengals next week, and the Eagles have a tough test against Baltimore next week. And I don't think Vic's going to win next week if he throws 4 picks again. So that's that. Now let's go on to the AFC champ, New England Patriots, taking on Jake Locker and the Titans. I actually was disappointed. I thought this would be a better game, but the Pats jumped out to a 21-3 lead by halftime behind the attack of Tom Brady and a fumble recovery touchdown by Alabama great Dante Hightower. I still think he was one of the surprise. Well, I was surprised that Dante Hightower was picked that late in the draft. So In other words, a great win for the Patriots. It's nothing really to be shocked about. I mean, they look dominating. Tom Brady's Tom Brady. The Patriots have the Cardinals next week at Gillette. Meanwhile, the Titans have the Chargers, and Tennessee's going to have some things to improve on. Also to note, Jake Locker did leave with a shoulder injury. His status to be known for next week, but I think they should go with Matt Hasselbeck. I mean, Locker had his moments. He did throw over 229 yards and a touchdown, but he also threw a pick. I think they should go with Hasselbeck. That's just my opinion because he's more veteran, and I think Locker still needs to learn a thing or two before he takes that next step in becoming a full-time starter. But let's move on to the Kansas City Chiefs and the Atlanta Falcons. The Chiefs were missing Tom Holly, Brandon Flowers, Kendrick Lewis. It seems like a little bit of last year, doesn't it? I mean, it's kind of funny. Just as the Chiefs were finally returning starters and Jamal Charles, Eric Berry, Tony Moyaki, then they lose people for a game. Well, one of them was a suspension, but the other two were injuries. But nevertheless, Matt Ryan looked unstoppable today. I mean, 23-31, 299 yards, 3 touchdowns, and a rushing touchdown to top that off. I will say this, though. Despite all the injuries, the Chiefs' rush defense looked good, and the Chiefs held in there for the first half. I mean, they were only down 3, but once Suckup missed that field goal, it went all 360, and the Falcons and Matt Ryan and the Falcons showed no mercy. Tony Gonzalez got one of those touchdowns in his last trip at Arrowhead, so very emotional. He got 5 catches, 53 yards, and a touchdown. But Julio Jones was the story, 108 and 2 touchdowns. And I think the Falcons can go all the way, potentially. But at the same time, Matt Ryan has still 0-3 in postseason games. It's all going to come down to Matt Ryan if the Falcons are going to go all the way. But if he plays like he did today, well, of course the Chiefs didn't have all their guys. But nevertheless, if Matt Ryan plays like he did today, I have no doubt that they will potentially make the NFC title game, but of course that's if they can get past like the likes of San Fran and Green Bay, who are playing right now, and San Fran's looking really good on the road, 10-0 right now. But anyway, let's get on with it. The Falcons are playing the Broncos on Monday Night Football next week. The Chiefs take on the Bills. Speaking of the Bills, as much hype as they got trampled by an offense that scored 1 touchdown the entire preseason, and that was their 3rd-string quarterback, Greg McElroy. They made Mark Sanchez look like Joe Montana today. The Jets just straight up kicked their ass. I mean, what else can you say? They jumped out to a 27-7 lead at halftime. I don't even think the Jets scored 27 points all of preseason, and the Bills were giving a lot of hype. Their defense was supposed to be stout, but they couldn't even get 1 sack, and Mark Sanchez owned you, man. It's Mark Sanchez. Oh, my. You know what? Whatever. Sanchez went Sanchezed on him, and Fitzpatrick had 3 picks and a fumble. He did throw 3 touchdowns, but a lot of it was like against prevent defense, and it was already too late as the Jets run away with a 48-28 victory over the Bills. The Bills do take on the Chiefs next week, and they better put up a better performance if they're going to win next week, as the Jets take on the Steelers, and that's going to be a tough one for New York, and that's that. Next, let's go on to the Lions and Rams. This was a nail-biter, and that I did not expect. I expected the Lions to just blow past the Rams, but Stafford struggled early. 3 picks early, but he did pull through at the end. It's just like Michael Vick. He pulled through at the end. It shouldn't have been as close as it was, but Matt Stafford with a clutch touchdown in the final seconds of the game to Kevin Smith. It was a great pass, and it was a 27-23 lead or win over the Rams. The Lions, they got to get better than this. I mean, I know they had a lot of problems. A lot of people got arrested. But, the Stafford's got to step his game up if they're going to take that next step. And they're going to take on the San Francisco 49ers next week on Sunday Night Football. And the 49ers are looking good as they're looking right now. It's going to be a tough test. Meanwhile, the Rams, they're taking on the Redskins next week. RG3 coming in to town. And if he looked as good as he did against the Saints, watch out. Next, I did not expect this game to be as exciting as it was, but the Vikings and Jaguars, the great quarterback competition of Christian Ponder versus Blaine Gabbert. Nah, I'm kidding. But Gabbert actually looked decent for the most part. I mean, he threw 260 yards and 2 touchdowns. That's probably a career high for him, or a career best. And Christian Ponder, he looked good. He didn't throw any touchdowns, but Peterson ran the show in Minnesota. Gabbert did throw a late touchdown pass, a 39-yard pass to Cecil Shorts, making it a 23-20 lead, but Blair Walsh kicked a field goal to go to overtime. Now remember, the overtime, different rules apply. It's if you kick a field goal, the other team still has a chance on the first possession. Vikings kicked the field goal. Jaguars had a chance, but one of the bad passes Gabbert did make cost him, and it was an overshot. I guess he had no really chance to complete the pass, but either way, Vikings win 26-23 over the Jaguars. Jaguars taking on the Texans next week at home, and the Vikings taking on the Colts. Now, last but not least, let's get to the Texans and the Dolphins. Now, the Texans, they struggled early, but the Texans defense woke up in the second quarter. Foster woke up. The shot just went crazy, and it came out to a 24-3 lead at halftime over the Dolphins, and it was never a game again. So, as a wrap, Ryan Tannehill struggled in his first start, 219 yards and 3 interceptions. Downfall. I think Tannehill will be ready. He faced a tough defense on the road in his first test. I won't bash Ryan Tannehill just yet. So, in other words, Texans win 30-10. Dolphins got the Raiders next week. Texans got the Jaguars. And this does it for the early games review. Now, leave your comments below. I will get back to the afternoon games later on.